Welcome back to Contemporary Black Voices, where we're talking today to Brother Andar about the Pan African Cultural Festival that's going to be held here in San Antonio on May 3rd. When we left off, I talked to Brother Andar, and I wanted to say Africa is in the name, Pan African, and we want to know about there are a number of Africans who are here in San Antonio. I want to ask two questions. One is their involvement, and two, why we should have either their involvement or more involvement.
No, and I think that was one of the reasons for the origin in the beginning of the Pan-African Cultural Festival, and it was the fact that we have Africans from all over the world here. I mean, I've met Africans from the Congo, from Cameroon, from Nigeria, from Ghana. So what we wanted to do was to show that we are a family and we are a community of people. We just don't know each other and we don't know we're here. So this idea of the festival was to create a space where we can come together and get to know each other. Now, the very important point of it is that too often we are introduced to each other through the eyes of someone else. We know very little about Africa as African Americans, and of course, people from the continent know very little about African Americans except what they see on TV, which is not always the best representation of us.
Or true.
True. So the idea, when we create a space where we can come together and interface with each other, as Brother Caleb was saying, and talk with each other, intelligent, share information, we start to see that we have a common bond and that we are more together than we realize, and that I'm bringing us together is an opportunity for us to build, not just for that day, but for the future. So then we can support each other in different endeavors, even to the point that maybe at some point we can travel to Africa.
Sure.
So the idea is that we start at this point, with the Pan-African Festival, but we got to see that this is an opportunity to build relationships that can go a lot further.
No matter what our efforts have been thus far, we can always do better. As you know, I've been trying to deal and bring some Africans together, whatever. Right. It hasn't always been as successful as I would like for it to be. But I believe that it is necessary for us to understand each other for the same reasons that you talked about. We've been introduced through a third eye, and through that third eye, the gatekeeper, so to speak, has not been fair to the African American or the African in bringing us together. And more than likely, it's always been something that third eye is trying to do for their self-engrandment.
I agree totally. And again, I mean, that's the whole point. And the idea is that the more often that we can come together and talk with each other, we really start to see that we have a lot more in common, and we build bonds and relationships. Now we go to African restaurants that are here in San Antonio. They come to some of the cultural events. I mean, we've had people that we've met from the Congo, like I say, from Nigeria, from Ghana. But it's an idea is that we build in these, two things. One is that we start to identify as one, because we're all part of the same family.
Right.
And the other thing is that we start to see that by coming together, we create an opportunity financially, educationally, that could really help lift all of us up. So the vision is to say, look here, we have a family here, and we want to make sure those who are coming here from the continent know that they have people here that have their best interests at heart.
Sure.
One of the things I have been noticing in the news, you've got the president of Nambia not asking Americans if they don't have visas, to leave the country, self-deport, and other African events that we're seeing, but we're not discussing here. And to me, that's a discredit, because for both sides, as you're saying, we don't know a lot about each other. I think one of the most interesting topics of discussion is this issue about what was slavery like. A lot of Africans think that the slavery wasn't as we describe it. So how do we take those issues and really, it's like the glass is half empty, half full. But it's the same glass that we're looking at. How do we look at that glass and bring ourselves together on what really happened between both countries?
I think with the conversation, the Pan-African conversation really has been a great opportunity for us to kind of knock down those barriers or that and come through that misinformation phase. Because what we're finding is that, yes, we don't know a lot about each other when it comes to slavery or even colonization. But as we have these conversations, we realize that we all have been oppressed and exploited. So I think we find a common, narrative in those stories. But I agree totally is that, first of all, we got to be more informed about each other's experiences and try to help us to see how it has impacted us similar but differently. And I think as people are open up to that, we're starting to see that, yes, there's a lot of people on the continent that don't know how enslavement impacted us.
And also, if you really think about it, also, is that a lot of Africans are seeing us through the lens
Yes.
of the colonizer.
Yes.
And so they don't understand that some of the laws that have been put in place, especially Jim Crow, was intended just to oppress Black Americans. They may have been told, well, they're just lazy. When you're trying to navigate all these different systemic racism issues, it's hard. But they see it they may see it a lot differently on what they've been told.
So can I tack on to that by saying,
right on.
but by saying we have to, and this is for everybody all over America, we've got to figure out how to break this wall down between, and I've heard it both ways. The Africans don't like African Americans, or the African Americans don't like Africans. Okay. And we've got this third eye, that colonizer, that person that's got this barrier in between. And for us to really be successful, and especially in these times in America, we've got to break that down.
So the whole idea is to build a bridge where we can come together and unify without somebody controlling who goes across that bridge. And that's the idea, is that too often, again, we have been introduced to each other through someone else's lens, and which has not been positive. So sometimes as African Americans, we know very little about Africa except what we've seen on TV, and that's been very negative and many times, even to this very day. And likewise, those who are on the continent seeing us. But when we come together face to face, we really start to see and get to know each other. Because anytime you're going to build a relationship with someone, a sincere relationship, a positive relationship, you need to sit down face to face with them, not have someone else tell you about that person and go on their word, but to sit down face to face. So that's what we're trying to create with the Pan-African Cultural Festival. It's an opportunity for us to come face to face, get to know each other, talk with each other, and build honest relationship based upon, because we're good people.
Right.
That's great, Brother Andar. We're going to take a break right now.
Right.
When we come back, we're going to talk about the actual event and those things that are going on in the event and what people can look forward to. When we come back, this is Contemporary Black Voices.